Hello, I'm Judit Polgar, and I would like to welcome Vishwanathan Anand, five-time world champion here. Welcome, Vishy.
Hi, Judith. Pleasure to be with you. How are you?
Well, there are a lot of occasions we met, obviously, from our childhood almost, and many times we played over the board. You visited Budapest. We last time met not long time ago in Tashkent on a very nice occasion, and we had the opportunity to chat and talk. But actually, the purpose why we meet right here is because the Judith Polgar Foundation 4 years ago started to give out an award, the Goodwill Ambassador of Chess Awards, where in different themes, different parts, science, sport, and education and art, we are giving out and acknowledge and to give out to people who are really represent chess in connection to this. Obviously, you are representing sports, so please accept from us the Goodwill Ambassador of Chess as a sport because nobody else deserves it more like you. You're such an ambassador and fantastic personality for our chess community.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored that you recognize me as such, especially since you yourself have done so much to inspire people, especially women, to perform the chess. So,
Thank you. We will also send you a little trophy. I know you have a huge collection with many trophies, but I think our foundation always very happy to acknowledge great results and not lost the personalities how they are. So let's talk a little bit about your career, how you
Mhm.
started out with. As a child, we know that your mother was the initiator of your chess career, I think, if I know it well, because I know you wrote a book also, and that I was reading and got some information from there too. How was your first experience, very, very first moment that you can remember that you saw the chessboard and you had some interesting feelings about it?
um, I this happened when I was 6 years old, and I vaguely recall my bedroom at that time, and I think my elder brother and sister were playing chess there, and I wanted to join. So I merely went to my mother and said, "Teach me how to play," and that's how it kind of got started. Then a few months later, um, I think my family did not know if this was a one-day thing or that it was serious. But a few months later, they realized, okay, I'm still going to the chessboard, trying to look at this and that. And they thought, well, if he's so interested, maybe we can put him in a club and he might enjoy it. So, luckily, there was a chess club very close to where my sister was studying. And so she said, let me take him there. So my mother took me there. Um, well, chess had this how do you say this? People had the impression about chess players that they were slightly old, that many of them smoke and things. So my mother wanted to check everything out. So she came with me just to see, is it a good place to leave him and so on. But then she was happy. They were a nice bunch of guys, big chess fans, all of them. Very good chess community. Even though India was not a big chess power then, still, the people running the Tal Chess Club and all were very passionate. They would, very great volunteers for chess. So I then started to go to this club. I remember the timings. It was Monday evening, 5:30 to 9:30. Thursday evening, the same. Second Saturdays, I don't know why they had this, but they had the second Saturday of every month was again, it was open in the evening. And Sundays, it was open from 11 in the morning till 7 in the evening. So what I would do is I would go every Monday and Thursday, and then Friday evening, Saturday evenings, I'd finish all my homework so that I was completely free on Sunday. And Sunday, just go and spend 5 hours there and come back at 4 or 5 in the evening. So this was the rough. And I remember going to my first chess tournament because I lost most of my games there, of course. I won one by forfeit, probably because I was paired at the bottom already. And and I got a book for perseverance because I turned out, even though I was losing, I went there for every game till the end, all 9 rounds. So they gave
Well,
me a
I
book
think
for perseverance.
I guess it was completely right from them because you have your own kid yourself, your son. I have two kids, and I think it's so important to teach them, right? To have the perseverance because if you have it, It means that it's one of the most important thing to succeed. When was the moment when you yourself understood that you're talented and that, well, maybe I want something more from this than just a game?
I I don't think you have such a moment actually, or at least in my case, I cannot recall a moment where I thought I can actually do this. By the time I was maybe 8 or 9, I understood that it meant a lot because I was thinking a lot about the game and it mattered to me. If I was playing well, was I improving? Was I becoming a slightly better junior? Was I progressing? All these things started to matter. My informant mattered a lot to me. My chess books mattered to me. I wanted to go to the club. So this typical mentality of a chess player, where um, you're aware that you're supposed to get better, and if you make a mistake, it annoys you. That sort of thing. But did I have a moment when I actually thought I can make a living from chess? I think once Danny King described it like this. He said, "You don't decide to become a chess player; you just decide not to become something else." It's almost like that. And I think I really came from this direction. But I was very lucky with the timings. Many people, when they finish school, they finish university, these are the moments when they sit and hesitate. They think, should I become a chess player? Is it realistic? Will I make enough money? Is it a good career? And so on. But I was very lucky because in school, I won my first national title. Then when I finished school, I became a grandmaster within a few months. And then when I finished university, I had finished playing Karpov in my candidates match. And I was already in the top 10. I was number 9 in the world at that point. And then it was clear to me that number 9, I was getting invited to the best tournaments. I was playing in the Linares, in Munich, in
So, which year are we?
roughly 91. And then I stopped my BCom. I was doing a degree in commerce. So this is some accounting subjects, some economics, some mathematics, and things like that. But is that the moment I decided to become a chess player? I'm sure I decided to become a chess player much earlier. It's just that was the moment I, how shall I put it, stopped pretending.
Were your parents pushing you to finish university, or was it obvious for you
No, it
also
was
that
my
you
idea.
want?
It was my idea. I just felt it's a good idea to do it, and I don't know why. I thought it's healthy to go to university, meet students, make friends, all that, and I didn't see why I should not do it. Maybe there was a social pressure as well. My parents were quite okay with whatever decision I took. I think already when I became a grandmaster, they realized, okay, he'll survive, So it's a it'll be a reasonable career. But I decided to continue with university anyway, and yeah,
And
I just
what was the moment when you decided to come over to Europe? I remember when we met first in 1988, Thessaloniki, at the Chess Olympiad. And then Frederick Friedel, we both knew and a friend, he said, well, Vishy, why don't you just go over to Budapest? Why not? And then already you were spending quite a lot of time in Europe. And you came over to Budapest to visit us. I remember very vividly that we had a great time, a lot of joking, playing chess. It was seeable that, of course, your brain was like a blade. You were like seeing everything. You were always reading newspapers, magazines, whatever we had over there. So it was a very unique and special experience for us, obviously, because at the time you were fantastically great already. And when did you move to Europe? Because that was a serious commitment by you, right? That as chess was not very professional at the time in India, and actually you were the first grandmaster. How was that decision? How did you take it, and how were your parents reacted on that decision?
okay. So already from 88, 89, I was traveling quite often. I would go to typically to Germany to Frederick's Place. That was a kind of base, or I would go to Amsterdam to my friend Albert Toby's house, and I would stay with him. So these were the two places where I spent a lot of time in between tournaments and all that. And then I would travel around. It was messy. It was even before Schengen. So Literally, I would go to Hamburg, go to the Dutch embassy there, apply for a visa, go back to Amsterdam, go to the German embassy in Amsterdam, apply for a visa. It's literally, it was a totally different time. I remember being very happy when Schengen came. I was the happiest, more than any European. But so I was traveling a lot. I was playing thing, but I was going back and forth to India, and it was a funny setup. So very quickly the idea came, well, why don't you look at a place in Europe? I mean, already I was a strong grandmaster. I could support myself, and I thought it made sense. I remember maybe 91, 92, the idea crossed my head. My first thought was maybe Amsterdam. Um, because of course Holland had a very good chess scene then. They had Vikensee, but they also had BSB, they had Interpolis, they had Groningen, they had so many events happening. The time of the Timon boom. And Holland was very tempting. I thought about it seriously. But in the meantime, I became very friendly with this couple from Spain, Mauricio Nieves. And I mean, for the audience, I can also say that they almost became like my second parents. Um, and suddenly, Spain became an obvious choice. I was visiting them a lot. I was slowly learning a few words of Spanish, getting a bit better. And it wouldn't have been my first choice before because of the language barrier. But once that was kind of overcome, Spain became a very tempting prospect. And in the end, that's where I went to. I bought my place in Spain in 94. Already it was getting tiresome going back and forth. So rather than the idea to move to Europe didn't come then, it was the opposite way. I had moved to Europe and then I decided I should stop living off a suitcase. So it came in the opposite direction. I was already spending so much time there. It made sense to have a base, to reduce the amount of travel I did, and to be able to work more consistently with Ubi Lava, who was my trainer then, and all that.
Well, I remember, of course, those days because we played in a lot of events together in Spain. Many of them were there in Las Palmas, Madrid, Seville. I mean, all these tournaments, right? We were competing,
Mhm.
and uh, and then there was a point, I think, in '96 when you got married to Aruna, right?
Mhm.
Was it
Yeah.
'96?
It was
Yeah.
96, that's right. Just before Dortmund 96, where also we
Yes.
met.
Yes, I remember. And I remember very well that you were always considered to be a very nice guy, great to hang out with, very friendly, very modest, just incredibly passionate about chess. You were not acting or didn't have any strange behaving what you're doing, and but still it seemed like there was not enough support for you, that somebody is really there all the time. And then you got married to Aruna, who was a very young lovely girl. I remember how shy she was. And then little by little it was very clear that she became the strongest pillar next to you, and she could give this very big stability, so you could really focus only about the chess and how to become a world champion, right? How did you feel at the time that did you think that it's going to be changing your life so much that she can take off so much from your shoulder in organization, in arranging things, and you will be really a world champion?
Again, that's what it evolved to, and the arrangement evolved kind of naturally. Aruna said, "Let me help you," but the full extent of it, I'd be surprised if even she knew. And generally, despite being a chess player, I don't like to plan very much into the future. I just go on impulse decisions. It seemed practical. Also, she was unable to work in Europe because she did not get a work permit as well. That's not included in the kind of visa arrangement I had. And and I think for her it was nice because it allowed her to put her skills. I mean, she said, "Look, I used to work in advertising. I've trained in these areas. Let me sort of help you in these areas because they're natural fits for you also." And then she slowly started taking over the planning. But we evolved to that point. It was a series of steps rather than some master plan. But yes, it became very convenient. And then slowly I could see the advantage also. So in 97, she started planning more. And I remember feeling very uncomfortable when she wrote to some organizers because I thought maybe they won't like it. Maybe I should write to them and this and that. But then I realized, okay, yeah, no big deal. She just knows how to what to say, and it's fine. So, but if you've been doing something for a while, it's hard to let go a bit. Uh, we got over that stage, yeah, in a series of steps, and um, it. But it's true that before I got married, I had to face the typical jokes. Um, you were a strong player, um, so this kind of stuff. And then in fact I gained almost 40 points after we got married, so it just goes to show. In Dortmund I gained elo, and in Las Palmas that year I gained,
But
so in
usually
two
it's the
tournaments I
other.
gained a lot.
Yeah, but I think with the guys, they don't say really that when he gets married that okay, your career is over. It was the case with me when I started to go out with my future husband, and of course everybody was watching, looking, and expecting me to kind of resign as a professional chess player. And it was contrary because for me it was also something very essential that he was supporting me in every smallest details so I could really focus on chess. And this is what I felt with you also, that somehow you're so perfect as a couple. At least this is how I felt. And I felt also when you won the title, I don't want to take away from your glory, but I think she also deserves kind of some, not a world championship title herself, but something similar, because I think what she had to struggle also and deal with all the organizers and around the matches, it was also her who made great support. And but to change a little bit about the topic, about the world championships, wasn't it, of course, when you won for the first time, that's amazing, great. But can you talk a little bit about how it is when you're a world champion, when you become one, then you have to defend, and then unfortunately there is a third part when somebody's taking from you. What are the different stages? Of course, about this we can talk days, but if you just give a little insight of that, because it must be very different stages and pressures.
Yes, so dealing with the start, of course, it was a big help for me that she started to support me so much and allowed me to focus more and more on chess and less on other things. And looking back now, I can even say that she's much better at many things. And the reason is simply, as a chess player, I have this habit when I'm negotiating to organize something, maybe some good position pops up in my head, and I lose interest in the thing and I go to that. And you can't deal with other matters like this. Whereas she has an attention to detail, she follows up and this and that. So things actually happen. Whereas my arrangements tended to be chaotic. So once upon a time, I would. It's too much to say that before I was married, I was completely alone. Of course, I had very good friends who were helping me, especially the Pereyas and these friends I mentioned, Frederick and Albert and so on. But it's different when you have someone who's with you and supports you deeply, and people that you just have a friendly relationship with. So it was a big help when I won the title. The first time was wonderful. I mean, after the Lausanne thing and after New York, I didn't even think about so much anymore. To finally say, well, I won this title and I can put this off my back was a great feeling. Um, then, because of the split in the chess world, I think winning the unified title was felt like a second new title because you think, finally they won't ask me when are you going to play the other guy or this or that. So you feel a different kind of validation. And then you're right that, but for me it was delayed. When I played Kramnik and Bonn, I was incredibly motivated and excited about chess. I don't know why. Maybe I was after that 4 year gap. I was just happy to be doing this, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But already the Topalov match, we were less effective. And I think every year it gets harder. With every title, it gets harder. With Gelfand already, we were struggling the whole match because, of course, he's a great player and he prepared well, but you feel that we are capable of bringing more to the table than this. Um, and with Carlsen, I'd already had this run of very bad form from. I mean, my last good result in classical chess was Vaikanse 2011, and I did not have a. I didn't. I think I didn't even have a plus score at a tournament till 2013 January. Vaikanse again, where you will see this game with. We will show this game. So for 2 years, I didn't have a plus score in a tournament. So you have the feeling something has gone horribly wrong, but you don't know why. You're playing your World Championship prep. You're doing this, that, but nothing seems to be working. And I must admit, it was painful to lose to Carlsen. But if I think of it now, I think already I could see. I mean, the guy was 2870 or something already. His rating was going nuts, and I was struggling to keep my 2790 or 2810 rating, just barely hanging on. So I think as a chess player, I understood there are things that are inevitable. Uh, you can resist, but in this position, the better side should win almost. When I lost to Carlsen, it was very painful because I had to go through that whole thing at home, which was terrible. I remember thinking, why did they go and bid for this match? I could have lost it somewhere else quietly. But having gone through that match, I felt, I think within a month, I felt very distant from chess. Like I didn't care. Uh, and I went to Hunty Mansisk, not because I cared about chess, but I thought I will not get. It'll not be easy for me to play another candidates tournament, and I can't ask them to postpone. Can I play? Can I take my wild card next time? Not this time. I don't think that kind of swap could be done. So I thought, well, why? It's nice to play the candidates. And, as a chess player, it's nice to just play it. Let me just play it. Let the result that happens, and I'll go there and play. And literally, that's how I went. I did not look at much chess before Hunty. I had a 4-day coaching session with Surya and Radek just so that I wouldn't embarrass myself. They quickly, I remember literally, Radek would tell me, do you know how to play chess anymore? Yes. Okay, then you just do this. Okay, you're fine. And, not I'm exaggerating, but it was like that. And then I went to Hunty, and then I go and win the tournament, and I got to play another match. So it was a very nice bounce back, and I think that result gave me the motivation to go on for longer. Um, but that's kind of how it was. Mostly, I would say once I lost the world title, I was fine with it. You miss it for a while, but then you're relieved. Mostly, you're relieved. And
Well,
like
you
they
have
say, you don't really take away the title from you. They always call you world champion, so you get both somehow.
Well, you have a lovely family since then, and you're very active. You moved back already to India, and actually, you inspire a whole generation. I mean, everybody sees that it's like grandmasters are growing in India like apples on the tree, more or less. I mean, you have so many talented players, and somehow you have the sponsors. You have Chess Base India, who gives a lot of moral support. I know that you opened your chess academy, if I'm correct, to help the most talented players from India. And this is something very special. And I think everybody is so grateful for that, that you share your knowledge and you support the newcomers, new ones who are really heading towards in the same footstep as yours. Of course, it will be difficult. Can you tell a little bit about your academy? Like, how do you support them? How much do you meet them? And what are your expectations from that?
Okay, so I was giving a talk at a company when so this company is called Westbridge Capital. They're an investment firm. They invest in companies that are about to start up or have just started up, and then bring them to the markets. So that's their thing. And so I did my speech there, and then while I was about to leave the airport, I met the CEO briefly, and he asked me, by the way, I wanted to support chess in some way. Do you have any ideas? Is there anything you'd like to work with? I said, yeah, of course, fantastic. We can talk and we'll be in touch. Then I went back and I gave him some ideas. My I had something as a cross between the Kasparov's Botvinnik school, where you have some annual or biannual sessions with some people, you want to mentor them a little bit, but thing. And this Samford Fellowship in America. Maybe you remember it, that they used to give a grant of 25,000 to every student to
Yes.
dedicate themselves to it for 1 or 2 years, and then they could see if that worked for them. And I thought I can make something like a mix. I will be involved like Botvinnik was, and we'll give them some support. So it's very nice that I had a sponsor, and then they didn't have to find this money. I could think. And this was how it started. The idea was to meet them more often. The idea was to have occasional training camps and sessions where we meet, we discuss a lot of topics. Of course, uh, within a few months, the pandemic hit. After we made the decision to go ahead, the pandemic hit. We were supposed to launch in April, but already by March, the pandemic had started and all these plans went crazy. Then in October that year, I went back to him and said, are you still interested in doing this? He said, yes, but I just don't know when. So we said, well, why don't we? So 1 year late, we started it. And I've not had a chance to meet them since. I mean, we meet them all online all the time, but it's not the same. I really wanted to have, so I expected to mentor them more, but I follow their games. I follow every tournament of theirs. Um, we have some coaches, Yusupov, Gayevsky, Sandipan. We have regular classes and things like that. But the idea is also that we support them in other ways. They give feedback, and I can give them some occasional tips. I might tell them, look, I saw you did this last week, and this is what I did many years ago, that sort of thing. Again, like I said, there's combination between Botvinnik and a fellowship. In fact, we borrowed the name as well, and we call them our fellows. So um, yes, I'm hopeful and very good bunch. I mean, it's Pragnananda, Nihal Sareen, Gukesh, Raunak, Leon, and Vaishali. Leon wasn't in the first batch, but my criteria was roughly grandmaster, quite young, and then that's the most promising thing. And then I remember it was so touching. Leon was playing. I mean, 3 times the number of tournaments I play in a year, he was playing in every month. So he was just going full. I mean, he was living in Budapest, and I think you met him
Yes.
more often than me recently. Uh, so, and I thought, okay, the guy is really dedicated, and he is now qualified to become a grandmaster. So he was the sixth to join in. We had one girl, Vaishali, and they're all doing well. So in the current rating list, Nihal, Gukesh, Prag are also all in the top amongst juniors. Vaishali is in the top amongst juniors. Leon and Raunak a bit further behind, but nonetheless very competitive. All very dedicated guys, and I hope the idea is that at some point they break into the top into 2700, break higher. But that's the idea, that we support them in that journey.
Well, I believe with your mentorship they have and with their talent, it's a great match for the future developments and progress for them. But I would like to show to our viewers some of the highlights of your career because obviously, I mean, I can talk with you endlessly, but still, I also want to go on the chessboard and have your comments on those games. So let's start with
Sure.
the first one, which was played between Aranyan and yourself back in Vacanze
2013.
2013.
13, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And you're playing with the black pieces and you played rook c8, right?
Yeah.
And then
So
white played knight
basically,
g5.
yeah. So basically, I was like -5 with Levon at this point. -5 or -4. Anyway, not a very great score. So, um, and we had prepared Rook C8 for the match with Gelfand, which was 6 months before this game, or 6, 7 months before the game. And this was the beautiful thing. When we found Rook C8, we were very happy because against B4, against Rook D1, against Knight G5, almost against every move, we just play C5. And that's the kind of point of this. So he went Knight G5. And it's too late to now change your mind, because if white can play knight e4 and b4, then I'm in big trouble. So I cannot do something else. Literally, as we say, if you say A, you have to say B. So I played c5. He took on h7. The typical move is actually bishop h7 and f4 is more dangerous, I think. Even though black is doing well, but black loses so many pawns that it becomes tricky. But anyway, it's a funny story. He goes knight takes h7, knight g4, f4. And I took, he took. And now I tried to remember the line, but it was 6 months and I did not check this line because I didn't expect to get a chance to use it. And I tried to find our idea. So the only information that I still retained in my head is this position is good for black. I know that because we couldn't have prepared this line and end up here and it not be good for black. But I could not figure out what's the way. So I thought 25 minutes. And my trainer was in the room thinking, what's going on? This was our preparation of the match, and he's thinking 25 minutes here, what's going on? But he didn't understand. I could not remember anything. I mean, it's hard to say. So I'm desperately trying to find some idea. I tried knight c5, I tried e5, I tried knight e5, I tried queen b6. Just trying every move in this position thing. And then I don't know why, I suddenly remembered there was some line where I had a knight on d3. I could not remember where exactly, but somehow there was this knight coming to d3. And this was the only clue I had. So I had, it's like a position in a language I don't speak, but I have two clues. Position's good for black, my knight has to come to d3. And the only move which made sense was bishop c5. So that's how I found bishop c5. And it took me 25 minutes or so to get it. He went bishop e2, but anyway, if d takes c5, then knight c5, knight f8, and now knight d3 or queen d4. This is the line I mentally remembered. By the way, when I went back and told Nielsen the story, and I said, "Can you show me the line on d3 where the knight gets to d3 because I think it's this one?" He said, "I can't find this line. It's not in our notes." So it turned out I had probably entered this line myself, forgotten to save it in the notes, and that's why it only stayed in my head. None of my trainers could find this line. But bishop c5 is such an obvious move for the computer that nobody thought to question it or try to find a way to remember it. It seems that it is. So that was nice. Then once you get the right path, you know it how it is. You can guess most of it. King h2 and now king takes f8 and black is doing great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So bishop c5, he went bishop e2. And now very nice move, knight e5. I think again your audience will enjoy bishop, let's say knight f8, then I go queen d4, queen g1 check. So that's the, yeah.
Amazing.
So,
Doesn't happen very often on a highest level, to tell you the truth, right?
yes.
Okay, so this is
So I
why
went
it was
knight
not.
d5. I took on d4, king h1, knight takes g4, knight f8. And by the way, it's still not very easy, but here I could do it by elimination. Queen h4, he has queen h7. That doesn't work. Queen f8 is dragging my queen to the wrong direction. And so I found f5.
Beautiful move.
Yes, and if knight g6, then queen f6. And again, because I was not relying on my notes, but I was relying on my own calculations, it took me a long time to understand that knight e5, knight h2, black is not just surviving, but he's winning. So knight e5, here, knight takes h2 is winning. By the way, knight h2 is also the only move which doesn't lose for black, but that's a silly point to make. But this this wins.
So you would win by elimination as well.
Yes, in a sense. So I found f5, queen f6, all this by elimination. And then the game ended very quickly. He went h3, queen takes g6, queen e2, queen h5. If he plays rook f3, I can play knight f2 and it's resigns, but I will win an ending slowly. Knight f2, then we exchange everything on f3 and I take the pawn and I win. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
But he went queen d3, but I think he was already depressed. He went queen d3 and I could very comfortably play bishop e3, and then he resigned. Um, so that was very nice feeling, and also it was before the rest day, and so
Well,
then you also have an excuse to enjoy yourself. You can party a little bit because there's a rest day, and you don't feel guilty. So it's not like so. It was a very nice evening that day. I remember it very
well,
well.
absolutely. It's what a beautiful bishop pair. It resembles also on
And
that old game
Rotlevi
of
Rubinstein, exactly. That's what I wanted to
yes,
say. Rotlevi
yeah,
Rubinstein.
because when
And
your
I remember
bishops
this
are
game.
standing, when your bishops are standing this way, even if you can defend it with white, you don't want to be on that side.
Yes, and it was a nice story. I finished my game and I went to the press room. They asked me, "Would you, of course, show this game in the press room?" So I went to the press room, and I saw Het Lichtering, and I told him, "Didn't it look like Rotlevi?" He said, "Yes, Rotlevi Rubinstein." I was thinking exactly the same. Of course, no one else had heard of this game because they're all from a different generation. But him and me, as old guys, we remembered Rotlevi Rubinstein. So that was a nice moment. But anyway,
Well,
so
actually, that game should be remembered by this generation as well, I think.
also, yeah, absolutely.
But okay, let's go to another game where you played with the white pieces against Jolletier, who at the time was still a professional chess player. Later on, he left professional scene. And I remember vividly very much when you played this game, and it was just so spectacular that I was showing it to people, whoever came across. Did you see this very beautiful idea by Vishy? So now I want to share this also with our audience, and hope you have a good feeling about it while we are showing it. So, what is this Bishop
Oh yeah.
G2? You were playing this game actually in Beale, and
Hmm.
I saw that they were calling this game Bellissima.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, so the
what
idea
is
is
this?
this that they used to play bishop d5 instead of bishop g2, and Lothier had an improvement. By the way, this is all, it seems to be almost pre-computer generation. I mean, we of course had computers in 96 and 97, but if you compare our notes from those times with today, it's almost funny. My phone can generate a much better variation in 5 seconds. So, and our work was so incomplete. I mean, so many gaps and everything that it feels like it was such an innocent time. But anyway, Lothier had this inspiration at the board. He said, "Why don't I play bishop g2?" And his idea was the following: after bishop g2, I go rook g3. If I go rook g3, then he plays bishop
Mhm.
d5, and one move later he can kick my rook with bishop d6. So that's literally the idea of bishop g2. And I thought, well, I shouldn't fall for that, so I went to e3. But then he plays the so-called refutation, which is knight b6, bishop d3, knight d5, attacking the rook. But what I had seen is that I can play f3, and I don't mind losing the rook or some pawns because I'm going to capture his king. His bishop is trapped. It's very unusual for the bishop to be trapped on this side of the pawn chain, but that's what happens.
So he did
Then he
not
went
take
bishop
the
d.
rook.
He didn't take the rook, but he keeps the option of taking it by taking the other piece. So king f2 takes, takes, rook b1 takes, rook takes b7. And then he played rook d8. I'm not particularly sure what the point is. Maybe he can play rook d7 somewhere. Also, it might protect his queen in some line indirectly. And here I I found it hard to improve my position in a certain sense. I mean, either you deliver the knockout blow, but which piece of white can you really improve? And in these positions, sometimes when your pieces, you must make this one move which disturbs the situation just a little bit. The other problem was my attack doesn't work. So I played h6, which now just disrupts everything. He played g h6, and now I can play bishop g6. That's the point of the h6. Because now if he goes queen takes d1, if he goes queen takes d1, I go rook takes e6 check, king f8. And this is the reason for h6. I can now play bishop h6 check. Whereas if my pawn is on h5 and his pawn is on g7, it doesn't work. So that was the idea to get this mate in.
Yeah, that was a tricky
And
idea. An innocent move h6, but actually there is a hidden trap.
yes, but even if instead of h6 he plays g6, for instance, the same idea works. G6. Now I take bishop takes g6, queen d1, rook e6,
And
king
you go from
f8,
h3.
rook f7. No, bishop a3, knight e7 is always a bit tricky. So rook f7, king g8, rook g7, ring come back, and then bishop a3, and then it's mate. So the pawn on h6 can both be a square for the bishop, and it can support the rook, something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, just very nice film.
So, what feeling did you have? And I'm sure you remember how was your feeling right after finishing the game.
Well, you don't get to play these games very often, so it feels fantastic. I mean, it's nice to win some long end game, but come on, this is what we live for. I think you live for this even more than I do. And you're always playing G4 and
Absolutely.
G5. So this is very much you. I'm sure you know that.
Absolutely. No, this was so spectacular when everything works perfectly, right? Everything stands where it should be standing. Yeah, it's not fun to lose this way from the other side, but it's real fun to win
Yeah.
something like that. So there is a third game which we prepared, and it is something very special from your life, right? Because this was a World Championship match. So if you can tell a little bit about it, how we should be visualizing the situation when we see this position. Which game is it? It's the last game of the World Championship match with Topalov, and the result is even. And you're playing with
Yes,
black.
we are five and a half each, and this was game 12. And my own feeling was, I played the Lasker defense. My own feeling was, after so much emotion, I don't want to gamble on everything. If a solid draw would be excellent result, and then I'll play the tie breaks. I'm not a bad rapid player. Um, I'll play the tie breaks, and we'll see. But surprisingly, Topalov was in two minds. I think he was in this funny situation where he felt obliged to play for a win, but also he was not really happy. He understood that this is a strange attitude, but sometimes you can't help yourself. So what he did was he took on f5, e4. Already it shocked me
Which
that somebody would
which is a
allow this
very
to
bad
happen.
move, right? Giving up the
Yeah,
center is a
e5,
bad.
f5 is bad. I don't know if he can make it just about defensible, but knight d2 or rook e3 is just equal.
So were you surprised when he took on f5?
I couldn't believe it. At first, I thought I had missed something. So I went e4. I mean, black's moves are such that even if you don't see the win, you have to play them. No, it's natural moves. So he went fe4. This surprised me even more because I thought maybe he's going to play queen f4 and king h3 or something like that. Some move like that. And then I started to think. I understood that I must have some good move, but it's not that easy to actually break through. Then I found the right idea, which is rook d4, attacking the knight also. So he plays knight e3, and now this clever withdrawal, queen e8. I don't think
Yeah,
I
this
saw
is.
all this before I played f5, but the moves come naturally after that.
But also in such a position, I think you don't calculate everything ahead, but you just cannot imagine that in such a position you're having your queen on e4, the bishop on the long diagonal, white king is on h3, that you don't find something for black.
Correct. But on the other hand, if queen e8 was not possible, it would be a strange position where actually it worked for white. But it's of course not the case. So he went g4. Again, black's move is not difficult, h5. Now if he plays g5, then I go back to e4 and he resigns because now the queen is coming to h4. And then he went king h4. And this shocked me. Like, I thought, what is going on? Then I first thought that maybe I should play queen e7. I was not sure if f6 works. Then I realized queen d8 is probably better than queen e7. But suddenly I saw this rook on c7, and immediately the natural move came ahead, g5 check. Almost like your game at Chiro, no, in Buenos Aires.
So, what about your heartbeat at the moment? You're playing your last game of the match. Depending on this result, if you lose, you lose. It's over. No further games, no nothing. Everything collapses. If you win, happy celebration. If it's a draw, you still have moving on, right? But at this point, it's not the draw which comes to mind at first. Though in
No,
such a
I already
complicated
felt that
positions, it can
I
be.
already would have been devastated to not win this game because you understand that this is overwhelming. And here you can see the problem for white. If he goes king g5, I bring that rook, um, and all my pieces are participating in the attack. King h4, I can play hg4 and then play rook h7 and come like that. So this is overwhelming. Um, what did he do? He took on g6. I played queen g6. But you see the difference. Now after hg4, I'll get a rook coming to h7 as well. What did he do? He went queen f1, I think. And I went rook g4, check king h3. And by this point, I had this strong desire not to let things slip. So the heartbeat was up mainly, oh my, I hope I don't spoil this one because I'm too close to it. So I was ready to play a tiebreak before, but after this game to play a tiebreak, it's not the same thing. Even if you have to go for the tiebreak, you'll feel so silly. So then I found rook e7, rook f8 check. I thought here at least 5 minutes because I was thinking, why not king? Yeah, I thought king g7, but then I saw knight f5 check, king takes f8, king f8.
That
Yeah,
was
king
in the
takes
move,
f8,
but
knight
I
f8.
just want to show that in this case you
Ah,
just give checkmate, which is quite nice having your little pawn on h5, but actually it's helping out quite significantly.
yes. Oh, by the way, instead of king g7, I wasted quite some time trying to make king h7 work before I saw rook h8 and I stopped myself. That would have been very
Oops.
embarrassing.
Oops. This is painful.
Yes. Queen f8 check. I have to go queen g8. Queen takes e7. Maybe some queen c8, but again, you feel if you have to do all this, something is wrong already. So I immediately stopped myself. I was relieved, and then I went king g7, knight f5, and now beautiful move, king h7. So if knight takes
With the
e7, I
same
go rook
idea.
g4.
Yeah. After that, rook h4 again.
So even rook g3, I took, and then I just had to check a few things. Queen check, rook e2 check, rook g2 check. Again, you wish there was more, there was a mate, but take it, takes. And actually, I don't know. For a while, people in the audience thought I had blundered because instead of king g2, you can see that white can win the queen back. He can go rook f7. I cannot go to g8 because of knight h6. I cannot go to h8 because it repeats. So I go king g6, rook g7, king f5, rook g4, h g4, king g2, king e4, and wins. But apparently, maybe this uh, online engine showed this as briefly being equal. And some
Oh.
people got worried. They thought, oh, the guy spoiled everything. He had such a big advantage before, kind of thing. But of course, for us, it's obvious that this king advantage is not even close.
Because
So he
how
went
much
king
were
g4.
you following and felt it from the audience and the atmosphere? You had this feeling that people were nervous and moving and something they didn't understand?
I don't even remember anymore. I must have felt it, but I mean, I didn't need to feel them. I could feel my own heart going. So it was clear. So king g1, and then king h3. Sorry, and then I started to see all sorts of goes. So if you can just put the pawn back on c5. I mean, normally you should just take on b2, right? But suddenly I saw king h4, king g5, and I thought maybe you'll get a perpetual, and I started to again panic that I might spoil everything. And then I realized that he's in total zugzwang. So I realized I can just play c4. And
Yeah,
now all
because
his
after
pieces are
king
messed up. If he
h4,
goes knight h4, then I take on b2 because the king can't come, and his knight is blocking his king. And which piece can he move? So suddenly he's busted. He went A4. I went A5. This is
This
almost
is
cruel, you know. You're
cruel.
not on B2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cruel. So and I went A4, A5 just to see what he would do. I don't even remember what he did. He went Rook F6.
Rook
So
F6.
now I could take King. And then I increased my Zugzwang. I played King G8. I can take on B2, but I decided to wait one move and just make completely sure. So he does this. Then I just come here, just to E4 so that the
Just
knight
cut
is
the
trapped
knight.
forever. Yes, and if King G2, yeah, King at 7. I'm just teasing him because he has no squares. And now I go Queen E5 and take on B2, and then
Check.
it's over. So
Yeah, still a few moves to make. And this was the last
yeah,
move.
yes,
Well,
and he's done.
quite an incredible moment it must have been for you to win this match in this way because you have to have iron nerves in such a moment.
A little bit, but I mean, in general, you just feel so lucky that your opponent collapsed first. Um,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, those
that's
games makes you speechless, I think, because you have so many other games also where you show your preparation, your wisdom, your combinational skills, your resilience. What was the most difficult moment from all of the World Championship matches? If we don't take about the Magnuses, just generally, like I remember when you were going actually to Sofia, you were passing by in Hungary, I think.
yes. We saw each other then briefly in that hotel, right? You had come to pick up Rustam.
Yes. So, what kind of memorable challenges and difficulties you had during, whether it's a World Championship match, whether it's something else?
I think for sheer hopelessness, nothing will beat my seventh game with Gelfand. I think that night, it felt like my entire chess career just shuddered to a halt. That's how it felt like. And then next day, I got quite lucky. I mean, I won in 18
You won in
moves.
22 moves or something, trapping his queen?
Yes, maybe
Or
it's
was,
22, but some very short
yeah, I
game,
don't know.
and then you understand that that's not some great achievement of yours, but it was a good day, and you should just take the point and run away, something like that. Um, yeah, that nothing will
Well,
beat that. But there were other moments. I mean, I can tell you that um, I can still tell you how happy I was coming back from Riyadh, for instance, the World Rapid and Blitz in 2017. I think
so
before
what
the
is
tournament,
the,
I would have been happy with 10th place, but to win it was just something else.
if I ask you, which is extremely difficult, but let's say I'm asking you, what is the top three most memorable moments which comes to mind immediately in your dreams also if you think about it.
I don't know. If you ask me, I will even pick some old junior game or something. It's like that. Your
I
personal
was
memory is
quite
different from
curious.
things, but in terms of real sheer um, emotion, I think these three are quite accurate. I could pick many more.
Yeah,
It's hard to pick these things, but
yeah.
these three
But
are pretty good. They're long memory.
still we have some special moments, of course, in our life. And we nearly discussing, chatting for an hour, so I don't want to take away from your time. But still, just a few more questions. What you are up to
Sure.
today, nowadays, in your life in India? You talked about your academy. You give lectures, motivational lectures, as far as I know. What other
Mhm.
activities and plans are you having spreading more chess in India?
I also try to keep abreast of chess tournaments and follow that because I still hope to play a little bit. Hopefully next year things open up a bit more and I can get back to playing something. Um, and I I fill my day with whatever possible. If I have some work, some projects, they're nice. But uh, it's quite special to be 1 year without going to an airport for us. Maybe you experienced this a few years ago, but for me, I experienced it first time last year. From, I'll tell you, June 6th till June 16th of this year, I didn't even go near the airport. And it was totally new experience for me. And it's wonderful because you know that for the first time he's 10 years old, and for the first time, he doesn't expect me to be out of the house. He thinks actually my going to the airport is the unusual thing, not my coming back, and that's a nice feeling also. So it's very nice to enjoy these times with your family and all, and
And
you have to enjoy them.
what about your career? Where do you position your career right now? Are you dying to play the best chess you can, or you're loosened up and you play only time to time, whichever event you like for whatever reason? How much do you consider yourself to be sharp, hungry, and go for it?
Well, this is entirely a pandemic reaction. I mean, in 2000 in February, I had a full calendar already till September. I was going to play here, I was going to play there, I was going to do this, I was going to do that, then I was going to go St. Louis, and from there I was going to go there, and the usual busy year that you had planned ahead. And then everything changed. I, well, it's inevitable, you have to accept it, but I also felt that it's not that terrible if we don't play a while, and so that thing. And right now, I see it as a kind of pause button. I hope to have more tournaments. If the tournaments are very attractive and challenging, then of course I'll be motivated to do my best and put in some other thing. But I'm just waiting and seeing. Um, I think you should also enjoy these unexpected turns. So if you're staying at home, well, it's nice then. I can see my son so much and spend so much time with Aruna at home. I mean, both of us are also dying to travel somewhere, but we will. And for the moment, I don't know exactly where it's going, but at
Well,
some point in tournaments, I look forward to training again for them. And for me, playing in Zagreb was very, very nice. I was so happy to play in Zagreb. They were incredible hosts there. I mean, the Croatian Federation and a lot of this local chess club, E4, the Grand Chess Tour. I had a wonderful time in Croatia, and I could enjoy playing again. And the result was good, which was even better. Then I enjoyed Dortmund very much, even if we were not allowed to
yeah,
castle.
that was a special event of yours, right? How was your experience with Vladimir? I mean, you met so many occasions during the decades. How was it? Didn't you want to castle time to time, and then you hit on your hand that no, you can't
No, I
do
was
that?
used to it because the whole morning I was training with. So I would put on some engine, stockfish, or something. You have to make these moves: knight f3, rook g1, rook h1, knight g1. You have to make it so that after on 8 moves you can't castle on either side. Then you get the no castling position. And I would analyze, and it's so funny. I would take all the typical chess openings. You could take knight off, Sveshnikov, this, that, and try to play them without castling. By the way, Sveshnikov is a disaster if you can't castle with black, because everything else is horrible in opposition. The only thing good for black is he castles and plays f5. So that sort of
Yeah,
thing. And you look at the knight off, and some things work and some things don't. And I found it so funny that every opening you could look at like this and find something new and exciting, that the king is stuck in the center. And very often the computer wants to play king e2, rook e1, king f1. So you understand that castling is a very good rule. It's a very clever rule, because when you take away the right, the computer spend all their energy trying to do it anyway. So it must be a very clever plan. But it was I liked it. We were 4 days there in Dortmund, and I've not been to Dortmund for a long time already. I played there in 2007, and after a long time, I played there. Hans Walter was there, so very good time.
it's,
And
so talking
it's fine at home also. There are nice things to do here. Catch up with some school friends, this and that.
talking
Go.
about no castling. If let's say, as a closing, I would like to ask you, if let's say we jump 10 years from now, where do you see chess itself? Do you think we're going to be changing in time controls, having rapid games, blitz games more? where the sport can be standing, especially with the last 1 year, 1.5, with so many online events?
I don't know. The sport will go in unexpected directions because first of all, there are new audiences, um, and these new audiences look for something new in chess. They're not looking at what we were looking for. Some of them just want the commentary. Some of them want some entertainment. But this is good for the game because it gives more people a chance to play and pursue it. But it's also a new world. I think nothing will disappear, but we will all have to coexist a bit more. So we already had rapid and blitz chess, but we will have online chess as well, and there will be online competitions, and you'll have all sorts of hybrid events with those. We'll mix this and that, and in whatever combination is appropriate. I mean, chess was changing even before. You see a tournament like Norway, for instance. They experiment here, they experiment there. These things are happening constantly. But last year we got so much of it. I think no castling. We can return to it several times. It's much more interesting than I expected it to be. 960 is very interesting. So in the event there are too many Berlins, we can always switch to a 960.
Well, Vishy, thank you very much for being with us here and sharing your thoughts already from your very early age until through the World Championship challenges, some of the greatest games you play, and your thoughts on your academy, your plans, and the future of chess. So it's always a great pleasure to spend time with you online or offline talking about things what's happening in the world of chess. So thanks very much for being with us, and have a good night because it's late night there.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as always seeing you, Judith, and thank you very much. I'm honored to be an ambassador.
Thank you very much for our audience. I'm sure that you enjoyed Vishy's comments and thoughts. So see you another time.